Hello, this is psychologist Yulia Latunenko. Today we'll be discussing a topic that's important to women. What should a single woman know? If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do so and don't forget to like this video. It's very important for promoting my YouTube channel. Also share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think are our women who are not married or not in a relationship still complete normal women? So what do women who are not in a relationship need to know? In our society, there is a very negative attitude towards single women and in general toward loneliness. Loneliness is considered to be a very negative state or some kind of misfortune in life. And this applies even more to women, because there is also belief in society that single women are somehow defective or incomplete. If you're unmarried or, God forbid, you've never been married, then you're either an old maid or a blue stocking. Look, who benefits from engaging in this kind of sexism? Because in our society, alongside these offensive labels for women who are not in relationships or don't even consider being in one, men call themselves by the proud word bachelor. But is that fair? Because for men, it turns out it's perfectly normal to be single, unmarried, and even to never get married at all. So why is it that for us, women, this becomes such a huge problem? It's like there's this sense of shame that if you haven't fulfilled this program, then there's something wrong with you. You're seen as somehow defective, abnormal, incomplete, and it's like you urgently need to do something about it. So these social stereotypes have a huge impact on women's mentality, on the formation of their consciousness, and in general on shaping a woman's entire destiny. Because many women don't even have time to realize whether they actually want to get married or whether they even want motherhood to be mothers at all. Because later it turns out that neither the child nor the marriage was needed by anyone in the first place.
Why are there so many divorces?
Because women, after marrying the first person they meet, as so often happens when they're heavy spinning, some hormones are surging, and then comes marriage, and very quickly a child, because everyone else has one, because that's the right thing to do. That's what our mothers, fathers, grandmothers, and grandfathers tell us. The number one program for a woman is to fulfill herself as a mother and as a wife. But what if we allow ourselves to think that not all women need to fulfill themselves in this particular way? Because now we see a lot of women, young women, who are already, starting to free themselves a bit from social stereotypes and who are building their careers, not rushing to have children, not rushing into marriage at all. And there are even some individuals now who emphatically state, I truly do not want to get married. Instead, I profoundly desire to be completely free. I wish to live entirely for my creative pursuits, for my professional career. Indeed, my work is truly my cherished child. I have a clear understanding of what I want to do for this world, how I want to be useful. I want to fulfill myself in this direction, but I don't see myself as a mother or wife. And this is where grandmothers and grandfathers come in, who criticize such women and say, so when are you going to give us grandchildren? When are you going to get married? This isn't normal. They are the ones who put pressure on women who think this way. The stereotypical belief that normal people have families and children leads to many women entering relationships with men with whom they shouldn't be building relationships at all. Many women end up in relationships with toxic men abusers or without realizing it go against themselves and later become toxic partners or toxic mothers. Such women ruin their own lives. And all of this is for the sake of stereotypes that prevail in our society. Besides the stereotype that you have to get married, there's also another one that every woman must have a child, because of course in old age someone has to bring you a glass of water. Who else will you rely on in old age? Loneliness is very frightening.
And you see where all of this leads.
It's very frightening for a woman to live alone because in old age some inevitable problem will befall such a woman if she doesn't have a child to support her, who will, if she becomes disabled and helpless, take care of her. This is how we shape our future. We shape our old age with our thoughts. Because if you think that you will have a wonderful, interesting old age in which you will be fulfilled by your own interests and needs, and you won't need to think about how to hook your child, how to tie them to you so tightly that they can't go anywhere, and how to deprive them of their freedom and will, so that in your old age they become your caretaker. If you think that you will have an interesting, wonderful old age, you will, on the contrary, focus on your health, your own life, filling it with interesting activities, hobbies, maybe even business. But the stereotype that you have to have a child doesn't go away. Stereotypes only influence our lives when we are not self-aware, when we don't recognize our own needs, interests and desires, when we lack contact with our own inner self, when we are under the influence of our childhood traumas, our beliefs, and the stereotypes that many generations of our ancestors have passed down to us. After all, through these stereotypes, many generations of our ancestors deprived women of dignity, deprived women of freedom of choice, deprived women of awareness and contact with what they want, with what they wish to fill their lives with. So, let's move on. What should we do about this loneliness as women? What does a lonely woman need to realize? And the first thing I suggest, and what I emphasize in this video, is to get rid of stereotypical thinking, to free yourself from those beliefs. This is not easy. I know how difficult this is. But you need to understand that you should live your life for yourself, not for other people. What will people say? What will they think about you? What judgments or labels will they put on you? You really shouldn't care about any of that. The second important thing I would suggest that you do is to ask yourself the very important question. Why do I truly need a man in my life? I have a lot of examples of answers to this question, and they are quite interesting. Women say things like, so that he can support me, so I can rely on him, so I can have a child. And these are all, rather immature reasons to get married or to start a relationship with a man. In reality, adult relationships are about loving each other, about giving to one another. But if you have a deficit, if you yourself are not fulfilled, what and how can you give to another person? If you don't love yourself, how can you love? That's why before building a relationship, you need to fill yourself with love. Because as one wise philosopher sage once profoundly said, individuals who are truly lonely and very deeply afraid of the prospect of loneliness should absolutely not enter into romantic relationships. You genuinely need to learn to be completely alone and truly happy with your own company. The second thing I suggest is to ask yourself another question. And why do I want children? And here too, there are many different examples, a lot of very narcissistic answers. To continue the family line, for instance. But have you asked the child if they want to continue the family line? Or to teach the child everything I know. But how do you know that everything you know is what the child needs? Because after all, this is a separate individual. So that in old age, someone will bring me a glass of water. Well, that's a well-known folk saying. So all of these are narcissistic, selfish reasons for how to use a child. After all, just like with a partnership, a child should be brought into the world only to give them life, to give them love as a gift, selflessly, and not in order to later present them with a bill in old age. Before rushing into a relationship and trying to rid yourself of loneliness, you need to work through a few things in your subconscious that could make your life unhappy or even completely ruin it. And the first thing is your childhood traumas, which will prevent you from building a happy married life or happy parenthood. They will always influence your subconscious and control your reactions, emotions, and behavior. Essentially, we need to work through our codependency, because any kind of codependency, financial, emotional, sexual, any codependency leads to toxic relationships. Where there is codependency, there is fear of loss, feelings of guilt, shame, anger, and disgust. All of that is what makes us unhappy. So what needs to be done before building a relationship and moving from loneliness to partnership? It is to learn how to build your own inner support, to rely on yourself, to know that in any situation you can depend on yourself and not look for a father or mother in your partner, because two children cannot build anything healthy, stable, or lasting. Here is another direction for working on yourself. You need to learn to feel joy in solitude, because solitude is just as much a gift as partnership. You shouldn't build your life around a single meaning or purpose. Like many mothers say, you are the meaning of my life, saying this to their child, or making your partner the meaning of your life, because firstly, it's hard for that meaning to take responsibility for your life, and secondly, this is a very unstable structure, like a house of cards. Any little breeze can make it all collapse, and then you find yourself face to face with what you've been trying so hard to avoid: loneliness. But please do not confuse loneliness with solitude, as they are quite distinct concepts. Because many women tell me, oh, I love being alone, it feels so great, so pleasant. But spending time alone, knowing that you're not actually lonely, is one thing, while being not in a relationship, relying entirely on yourself and not feeling that ache or that kind of fear that you'll be helpless, that's something completely different. To be fulfilled by yourself, not by someone else. Remember, you need to fill your life with yourself, your own interests, your hobbies, your career, your business, not with someone, but with something. Everything I've managed to accomplish in my life, it's difficult, it's not easy, but I know how. And today I can tell you that my adult son, who is now 36 years old, communicates with me freely, and by his own choice he enjoys talking with me. I also have a partner now who loves me, and I enjoy spending time. But I have established my own boundaries, so I know that the most important thing for me is myself. And what matters most is not to lose yourself and your interests, to be able to speak up and have a dialogue with your partner. I know how to do all of this in my own life, so I know how, and I will try to teach you all of it. And of course, at the end of this video, I ask you to subscribe to this channel and leave a comment on this video. What do you think about female loneliness? Is this okay for you, or is it still very scary? And your comments, any activity from you really helps promote my YouTube channel. Please, I would appreciate every comment with more than 7 words, because YouTube's algorithms count exactly those kinds of comments.